Hey guys, we've got another Tech Tuesday. Trying it at 2:30 today for timing, but we've got a question for sure about which prop to use on a 250 show, and we got a few other topics, and of course any questions that get asked. So if you are watching this later, we're going to start a timer here because there's a couple other things I need to do to get us ready. But you can skip on forward, and hope you get something out of it. Don't forget, join us, ask us the questions live whenever you can. All right, guys, if you've got questions, drop them in the comments. We'll be right back with you in just. All right. Good
Back.
afternoon, Michael and Israel here for yet another Tech Tuesday. David Gibson, good to see you today. Um, we'll jump into that question real quick. I do want to tell you, I believe we got some stuff in the mail from a Facebook prize that you had won. So did get that taken care of this morning. I do apologize. I've not gotten that. That's all on me that I have not gotten something out quicker. But he won some missile bait stuff. So
okay, good. Yeah, I think I remember y'all talking about that.
Got it going. Hey, I'm gonna make a quick adjustment here.
Gonna zoom out a little bit
and give us just a little bit more. Sorry, guys. All right. So I don't think there's a whole lot new that's happening around here. Same old, same old. We're diving knee deep into to the season.
The glory of boating.
Yes. Yeah, guys, get your questions in, and we'll jump into it. Just kind of a heads up, we do these typically in the mornings on Tuesdays. We may bounce around, and especially with the season coming along, we're going to try and fill in as much as we can. I'll tell you while we're live, I'm actually, we got a family band trip next week, so we may miss next week.
Sounds like way too much fun.
Yes. It's Disney, so something. Yeah. So my girls are stoked, but I don't know. It'll be fun.
I'm sure they are.
It'll be fun. So,
I like Disney.
Yeah, I'd rather be on a boat on the lake, to be honest, but that's all right. To each his own. My girls love it, and I love my girls, so. That is the way of things. So, what's your take on Vessel View? Is it worth having?
Well, I don't know if you are talking about just a regular Vessel View monitor or Vessel View mobile. Either way, the mobile's a little bit more limited. You can get information and track things. I like it for the money. The Vessel View mobile is probably the way to go because you can view your hours, on your mobile phone. So, but it is limited just because it's Bluetooth. But it will give you a lot of information. It'll even give you the dealers around you as well in case you're off somewhere else, fishing and you got something wrong with your boat. Sometimes you can.
Wait, what boats don't
punch.
That never happens. No, boats always work perfectly everywhere you go.
That's why I'm around. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's worth having in whatever regard. The cheapest version of it out there is probably the mobile version. So,
and both of them you can pull at least your engine hours.
That's right.
And stuff.
And a lot of stuff now will even give engine code, but it's a universal code. So a lot of times, even when we get some of the codes, there's so many of them. There's like 1,000 different codes now because they're using a universal system to try to make it easier, I guess, for people to get codage across the board in the industry. So sometimes you will look at a code and be like, it'll say you have a coil problem on, cylinder number 4. Okay, well, you call Mercury's like, well, this has got a problem on cylinder number 4, and ends up, well, it's actually probably cylinder number 6 because the driver for number 4, sends a signal to number 6 first, but it'll throw a code for number. So, the interpretation is always lost until you really put your finger on it. So sometimes codes don't really help you in the real world.
So a little more complicated.
You gotta
know. Yeah. I guess the service shop answer would be there's a reason that we send guys to schools to learn.
Yeah, and sometimes even when you send them to school, the stuff is so erroneous. Sometimes you have to call them still and say, hey, this is saying the O2 sensor is throwing a code. The down O2 sensor is throwing a code. Is it the O2 sensor here or is it a misfire?
Gotcha.
Because you can have a misfire on a cylinder on an inboard now, and it'll throw O2 code.
Okay.
So it could be just a foul plug.
All right, we'll get to. We'll keep in line. David, wrap this up. He's asking, do they have a cheap reader you can buy to get the fault codes. So I'm going to expand that into just, is there vessel view versus any other reader to get the information, you know? I'm assuming the answer is there's not really anything cheap.
No, and they're made like you can get a lot of the engines are putting, I guess it's OBDM, which is like OBD2 for a car, but it's the marine version,
Okay.
and that's why I'm saying they're coming up with this universal stuff, but
Gotcha.
the outboards are not quite there yet. So the inboards have got it already. The outboards is not. There may be something that you could read it with, but I don't know if it's cheap. We have the factory stuff, so we don't really look at that.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know how much we'll see about this one.
We're in my wheelhouse now, buddy.
What are some good recommendations on settings for crappie fishing this spring if you have side view on your fish finder? And I see you're talking Humminbird, Mega. I have no idea on the settings for that kind of stuff. If you fix it.
Well,
I've
had to play with some of the stuff before, and so what I will tell you is if you're on your side image and you hit menu once, okay, it brings up for whatever screen you're in, it gives you a sub menu. If you hit it twice, it brings up the big settings. So say if you hit it once, it gives you all these options, okay, contrast, clarity, surface clutter, all this stuff, and you can actually change the color of the side imaging, okay? So the best thing I can tell you to do is play with it.
Yeah.
Okay? If you mess it up too much, you can always go to the regular settings and restore defaults. Okay? So in that case, I would change your surface clarities. I would play with your contrast, because sometimes when you lower the contrast, it makes it more shadowy. Mm-hmm. And then you can see the little white specks, which would be fish better, and you can see schools of fish, and how wide you make your imaging can change the clarity of the image. So if you're real close to docks, you don't want it set for 80 foot. You want it set for 15, 20 feet. And also the depth of the water. So sometimes if you're in real shallow water, it's pretty much useless, because the degree in which that side imaging drops down may hit the sediment before it hits where the fish are.
Right.
So if you're in 2 foot of water, you're probably not going to get much out of it.
So as far as Humminbird specific, I can't think of the name off the top of my head. I know there is a YouTuber that he does, like, that's pretty much what he does, is YouTube content on, and he really gets in the weeds and does a very good job of stepping through all the menus. And we've had I guess he's no longer really technically our rep, but Josh Painard from works with Humminbird. He's done some really good lessons. I'm trying to think. We probably have a video that we did with probably 2, maybe 3 years ago before COVID. We had him come in and do a seminar, a sonar seminar. But I will try, after we're done, I'll try and go find some stuff and link it up in the comments.
Would that be a sonar?
I don't know. Would that
be dad joke for the day?
Would that be a dad joke?
Yeah. For the
All
day.
right.
I missed it last week.
That's that works. But yeah, we'll that's a very that's good. Maybe we need to pull that in on some Tech Tuesday stuff. Also purchased the Strike Force card. Do you think it's helpful? I personally, I'm clueless on the Strike Force card. I don't know.
It's the first I've heard of it. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah.
I don't. Just so y'all know, I don't fish. Do you fish? I know it sounds weird. I've been around boats all day. I go out on boats all the time because I have to, but I play with knives and tinker, but I don't fish. So it's hard for me to. I should probably start fishing, because if I fished, I would know everything there is about depth finders and sonars and strike forces. So I don't know what a strike force is.
Yeah,
Right, Kenneth. Yes, I know it's sad.
But. Yeah, well, I have. Yeah, I don't. One of the best things about working in this industry is it's very hard to enjoy some aspects of this industry.
Well, I make it easy. I tell people I don't mix business with pleasure.
Yeah, it's just the with the amount of work. I do fish. I'm learning fishing. So definitely, we like I said, I'll find you some resources that can help you out with some of that stuff. That is probably more hey, let's get one of our elite pros who are hummingbird guys, and we can get you some good answers on that from guys like Matt Herron and Wes Logan, who are hummingbird guys that work with us. So I wish I had time to be able to answer all of that in detail, but
when we're done with this, I'm gonna look up what strike force is.
Yes,
so that sounds very tactical.
All right, one thing, because I told them on the Avid group that we would get to this. What's the best prop for 250 show on a 23 mag? And for those of you that aren't familiar with Avid, that's one of their 23 foot center consoles, 101 inch beam, I think. Mm-hmm. Big old boat. So always love the prop.
And I always preface my answers with an answer. I always tell people that you can lay two of the same boats next to each other, put the same prop on, and one run different than the other. So sometimes it's kind of a, you have to try this prop to see which one. We usually get one that we put on there, but it doesn't always necessarily mean it's the best performing one out there. So, and that goes across the board. So I'm thinking we're probably putting 21s or something on a boat that size, so I would start there. But is that the best one? I can't say unless I just take a bunch of props with me one day and run. And I've done that before on some newer boats. I know when Falcon first came out, I probably took 10 props out there. And unfortunately I didn't have a hydraulic jack plate, so I was moving the jack plate up and down manually, and I had all these props out there because I really wanted to see, which one was the best. But as far as the Avid goes, the mag, I don't know if we've had a bunch of those, so I really have not had the opportunity to go out and try a bunch of different props. But I would start with a 21 saltwater series.
Yeah, I mean, so I know from these conversations we've had over the last long time of doing these Tech Tuesdays, it always seems to be trial and error. See which one. Now, I think the other question I would ask with a 21 mag or a 23 mag, the mag was built as kind of a semi-recreational.
Yeah.
They put in a padding and all that kind of stuff. So, what's the best prop? I'm assuming he's meaning how do I get the most speed out of the boat, but the question may be, are you using it with a family boat, and
or you pulling skiers with it too.
So you may
sometimes you have to have two props.
Yeah. So a lot to that, and of course weight and balance. I know I've heard almost every time we talk about boats with Matt Herron, who's been earning a living with a bass boat for
most of the life.
Yeah, for a long time. He's real keen on the weight and balance and how you got it set up. So. All right, let's see what else. What was we'll get down. I see another good question in there. I'm having trouble with motor revving up. I shut motor off even in neutral. I think I broke shift cable maybe. Any ideas? What
is it still going in gear? I guess I know sometimes if you break a shift cable, you're able to go in one gear, but not the other. So, and depending on the engine you have, I think you have a Mercury, if I remember.
Yeah, I think. Assuming you're asking about the
like
vessel,
a 150 Mercury. The brackets break on those too. So, I've had a few brackets break, and it caused it to where it would shift and do weird things, but still be able to shift sometimes. So I would just the best thing you can do is take the okay, no, see, I was close, just wrong. Yes. uh, if it's a shift cable, you can take the cable off the motor, and you should be able to not move it. You know, if it moves a lot, then you have a cable issue. Then if that doesn't seem to be the issue, you would look at the bracket that's holding it, and sometimes it'll have a break in it, and it moves too much
Okay.
for it to shift correctly. If all that stuff's okay, then you've got a control box issue.
Okay.
So that's your line of diagnosis right there.
Gotcha.
So now, if that motor is, if your hot foot, now the hot foot has a stop on the back. If you have a hot foot, and I've seen the screw come loose and hold the hot foot open.
Gotcha.
So when you try to go into neutral, it's really hard to get it to go from forward to neutral, and it'll rev way up. So it could be an issue with your throttle cable too.
All right.
So
okay. Let's see. 2002 Mercury 125. Is there a way to get the hours on the motor?
I don't. What's the 2 + 2? What do you reckon that is?
I'm not sure. Maybe 2 motors? No. 2-stroke.
Well, either way, if it's a 125, if it's carbureted of any kind, then you can't get hours off of it. If it's an EFI,
what's the year in most of the manufacturers that you start seeing the computerized?
I would say early 2000s on some of them, mid 2000s on others. But
four cars.
Then you're not going to be able to pull hours off of it for sure. Yeah. Even some of the early EFIs, Mercury and Yamaha, that were what we call them, you know, stupid computers. They did a lot of stuff, but they wouldn't give you any information. So like the OX66s, the early Mercury EFIs, they would not give you any information. So when you got into like the 2005 through 2006 EFI Mercuries, they started giving you information, and then of course they went to the Optimax, and that one was you could get a lot of information out of it, including the hours. But carbureted motors, we never had any ability to get hours out of.
So I guess I would take that. So on the 2002 on a motor like that, I mean, what can you look at to determine?
I would just look at the general condition of the engine. If it's salt water or fresh water. If it's fresh water, you take the cowling off, and it looks like you know it's old and decrepit, and things are kind of falling apart. Then it's probably got a lot of time on it, or it's at least been in a harsh environment.
Gotcha.
But cleanliness and you can look at the spark plug wires. You can look at all the the levers and stuff in there. If they look nice and they're not wobbling around, spark plug wires don't look beat up, and you can usually tell. Sometimes you can actually, that's a 4-cylinder inline 4. So you can look at the spark plugs themselves. If it's got low hours, a lot of times they'll have the original plugs in them. They have black paint on them, and you can unscrew them and look at them, and typically see, well, that's got a lot of time or a little bit of time on it. So.
Okay. Oh, so it's got it. It's your motor, runs great.
Oh, he's talking about the low speed carb and the high speed carb. Yeah, so it idles on 2 carburetors. Yeah, which is it was a weird thing. They did that because it kept the engine from shaking the boat while you're sitting there idling around.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
Not a lot of people are very good at adjusting those carburetors, though.
Well, I would imagine that can get a little complicated, going back and forth with that. So, I've replaced the dash switches for a small bass boat. Any recommendations for good waterproof dash?
If it switches, I mean, I would just get if you can find a nicer version of them, but really they're all pretty much open to moisture and air.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a company that probably makes some. We don't ever see them because nobody wants to spend $30, $40 on a switch. All of our switches are going to be like anywhere from $10 to $20. But which is great about one thing that's great about these switches, those they are cheap, to get. So if one does go bad, you just pop another one in there. So that's the nature of the beast with that stuff. But I would rather have that than a fancy panel with
Yeah.
computer because when they go out, it gets really expensive.
Well, and when you got to replace when one button goes bad, you got to replace the entire panel.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, some of that stuff, I'm.
It's cool when it works.
Yeah, it's just it seems unnecessary on a lot of especially marine environment. But yeah, it looks cool, but there's a lot to be said for a switch that you can run down AutoZone and
simplicity.
Yeah. And I guess just to kind of round off that, just to make sure, I don't know if he's asking for a waterproof dash or I'm assuming, like you answered, that you're looking for a waterproof or water resistant switch. No. But I don't know of a dash that you could build that would be.
Probably not.
I mean, even if it were, it's gonna be a boat that sits out in the elements, and you're gonna get condensation. So I mean, no matter how you build that, you're still gonna get. You're still gonna have issues.
Kenneth, I would say some of the better switches out there are probably going to be Blue Water. I don't know if they make plastic toggle switches. I think they make a metal one, and then they make some waterproof, just push button switches. I don't know if you'd want to do your whole dash in the little push button switches, but they seem to work pretty well. There are several companies out there that make a metal, just flip, like it's got the little flip switch on it. They're metal, and then they make a boot that goes over them that makes it water resistant. Those would probably work well if you wanted to replace everything with an actual toggle switch instead of like a metal one, instead of like the little flip switches, the little flat ones. I mean.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kenneth. I assumed you were talking about switches, but
you never know.
Yeah, I've been doing this long enough that you never want to fully assume that what may be meant, especially over a comments section. All right, I'm gonna throw this one in there because I think this is a kind of a general question, even though he's specifically asking about 2004 F225s. It's going to be Yamahas. Completely rebuilt the power heads, replaced the center exhaust section, serviced the lower units, all new seals. Both of them run fine in the water barrels. Planning a break-in run this coming weekend. I've been told, an hour at 1,000 RPM, followed by an hour at 2,000 RPM. Thoughts, obviously, answer this specifically, but I thought this is kind of a good question in general. If you rebuild a motor, and we talk a lot about the break-in process of new motors.
Well, I would say the first hour is probably the most important, and I would say 1,000 RPMs is not enough. So when we break our engines in, it's going to be probably closer to 2,000 RPMs, 2,500, 2,800, enough to get the boat up on plane, because you want resistance, but you don't want to be looking. You want to be safe. So 1,500 RPMs, 1,800 RPMs is going to be dangerous because your nose of the boat is going to be trying to get up on plane, so you're going to be up like this. So what I tell people is 2,000, 2,500 RPMs, or get it up on plane, whatever it takes to keep it up on plane, which is usually going to be around 2,500 RPMs, 2,800 RPMs, with the motor tucked all the way under. So we want a load, we don't want a heavy load, because when you're breaking in a four-stroke, especially four-stroke, it's all about harmonics, vibrations and stuff. And so the different vibration actually breaks in different parts of the cylinder. And those rings are spinning around in circles like this. The valves are spinning around in circles like this. And those different vibrations, you don't want them just spinning this speed or this speed. And then when you raise the RPM, and you don't want to stay at one RPM for a long period of time, you don't want to idle for a long period of time. So the different RPM, so you would change it up 700, 800 RPMs every 7 or 8, 10 minutes to change those harmonics. And then after you've got a couple hours on it, you're going to do some real limited wide open throttle runs, not trimmed all the way up, just so that it can get some higher RPMs, and then you lower it back down, let those pistons cool off. And the rings pretty much have gotten broken in the first couple of hours.
Okay.
What you're doing after that is the next 10 hours, or the total of 10 hours, you're tempering the pistons. So when you get those pistons hot, they want to swell up a little bit, and then you let off of it and they cool down. And all that swelling and cooling actually hardens the piston and keeps it from swelling in the future.
Gotcha.
So, and once that's done, once it's tempered, it's done. It's going to stay that size unless something happens, like you get a really ultra lean condition that really swells that piston up, starts melting it, and that's usually when you see a motor seize up, sling a rod, or something like that. That's damage. So.
All right. Well, I think David, are we still troubleshooting your Merc? Does the Optimax have the electronic choke?
Negative.
If so, I think okay.
No, I will tell you what will cause your engine to rev. You can have a diaphragm in the lift pump go bad, and it'll cause it to rev. You can also have a tracker valve in the fuel rails, can cause your engine to rev. You could have the fuel regulator bad, could cause your engine to rev. And then, like I said before, a stuck open throttle valve of some sort can also cause your engine to rev.
All right. So. Okay. I think we've been going. We're at 30 minutes now. I think I'm gonna throw one last one up here, and I know this is a fairly basic one, but this time of year, I think it's going to be a question and a topic that we're going to hit over and over again about gas. This is specific best gas to run in a 200 HPDI, and the recommendation of ring free. So yeah, we talk about it fairly often, but I think it's worth, especially this time of the year, kind of.
Well, the HPDI 200 was designed to run 87 octane. So I do recommend non-ethanol if you can get it, and it is turned over quickly. So if you got a place in the boondocks somewhere, they sell 10 gallons a week of ethanol-free gas. I would probably not recommend that place. Sorry to those places, but if it sits there a long time, it's going to degrade. You're actually going to get bad gas, and it's going to be worse off than if you put ethanol fuel in there. So if you're going to use ethanol fuel, you want to use ethanol fuel that's in a place that turns it over as quickly as well, like the corner stop on the main intersection.
Yep.
So I would recommend that, and then use your boat, because if you don't use your boat, you got ethanol fuel in there, you're going to have problems. So unfortunately.
And ring free?
Ring free is always best. Yamaha makes the ring free plus. I actually make two versions of ring free plus. Ring free plus has a oily stabilizer in it. I would just go ahead and use that. You need that stuff for the injectors. All the oil is going through the intake now. It's not going through the injectors anymore on direct injected motors, so they never get to see any lubrication unless you put it in the fuel. So you can either use ring free plus, put a little bit of oil in the gas. I mean, very little oil in the gas. Maybe an ounce on a fill up helps a little bit. The great thing about a Yamaha, they actually do have a little solenoid on the side of the engine that pumps just a little bit of oil in the VST.
Okay.
So they actually do get to see a little bit of oil. The Optimax don't. So I always recommend, if you're going to have an Optimax, to put every other fill up. You can do it every fill up, put about an ounce of like Premium Plus in the gas, just so there can be some oily stuff going through those injectors every now and then. You could use Marvin's Mystery Oil. You could use Ring Free Plus and Mercury. It works too. So,
all right. Well, again, we're getting into boating season. Everybody's going to be getting that stuff out there. So I thought the fuel discussion, obviously,
always important.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest ones that most guys operating boats are going to deal with on a regular basis. So, all right, well, guys, we are going to get out of here. And appreciate all the questions and chatting with us. Hopefully some of this has helped you out. If you've got further questions certainly continue to put them in the comments, and I'll try and keep an eye on that stuff. And if you really need some help, give us a shout. If you're in our area, then give us a shout and get something scheduled and get your boat in. Although, what you got an idea of how long out we're?
I don't.
Gotcha.
I try not to keep up with things, but
Just
we got a lot going on.
Let's just say, as you pull one boat out, there's always another one to pull into the bay.
Yes.
So, but
good job security right now.
So, guys, hope you are ready for boating season, and let us know what else or what anything we can do, parts, finding all that kind of stuff. We can even ship some parts around the country.
Yeah.
Do that on a pretty regular basis. So give us a shout. Our parts guy is a much bigger fan of talking on the phone, but man, he is like a walking Rolodex of parts information. So they'll take care of you. So guys, hope you have a great afternoon and a great rest of your week, and hope you get out on the water. Yeah. We'll talk to you guys later.